What does $1.3 million buy in the greater Seattle area? We're counting down 5 Seattle area neighborhoods and suburbs at this price tier, ranked from number 5 to the best all-around pick. Zillow's home value estimates from May 2026 put these blended home values between about $1.2 million and $1.35 million. On paper, that sounds like a narrow band. In real life, it stretches from Lake Washington city streets to Puget Sound viewpoints and Eastside tech hub energy. Also remember, these are blended medians, so detached homes and condos can sit very far apart inside the same neighborhood. Number 5 is Madrona in Seattle. Madrona is the entry point here, with a typical home value around $1.2 million, the lowest of the 5. Walk Score rates Madrona at 91, which is also one of the strongest walkability numbers. The neighborhood slopes down toward Madrona Park, where Lake Washington shoreline sits right at the foot of the area, giving this price tier a very Seattle mix of city streets, hillside homes, and waterfront access. What $1.3 million gets in Madrona is not just a number on a housing chart. It gets proximity to one of Seattle's classic Lake Washington pockets. The commercial stretch along 34th Avenue gives the neighborhood its everyday center, while the lakefront park adds a much bigger sense of place than the square footage alone can show. Madrona was also down 2.5% year over year, so its placement at number 5 is partly about value relative to the rest of this tier. The trade-off is that Madrona is still Seattle, still close in, and still compact, compared with the suburban picks coming later. At this price point, the neighborhood's strength is location and walkable character, more than huge lot expectations. It is the lowest median here, but it does not feel like a compromise setting. It feels like a city neighborhood where Lake Washington remains part of the daily backdrop. Number 4 is Magnolia in Seattle. Magnolia comes in with a blended median around $1.3 million, and Redfin's May 2026 price per square foot snapshot puts it at about $586 per square foot. The geography is the headline. Discovery Park's bluffs, Magnolia Park, Puget Sound, and Elliott Bay all shape the neighborhood's identity. Compared with Madrona, Magnolia feels more spread out and residential, with big views and large green spaces doing a lot of the heavy lifting. At $1.3 million, Magnolia is about buying into a peninsula-like Seattle setting rather than a highly urban grid. Discovery Park is one of the city's major outdoor anchors, and Magnolia Park adds another viewpoint over the water and skyline. The blended median sits at about $1,295,000, which keeps it very close to the target number. Magnolia was also down 1.5% year over year, the smallest dip among these 5. The honest trade-off is mobility. Magnolia's walk score is 60, and its transit score is 33, the lowest transit number in this group. That does not erase the appeal of the saying, but it does mean daily patterns can fall different from Madrona or Redmond, especially when errands, commuting, and crossing back into other parts of Seattle are part of the picture. The reason Magnolia still ranks ahead of Madrona is the scale of its parks and Puget Sound setting at nearly the same price tier. Number 3 is Sand Point in Seattle. Sand Point sits on the Lake Washington side of the city with a blended median around $1,311,000. Magnuson Park wraps the neighborhood's eastern edge, giving this pick one of the strongest park and water combinations in the countdown. If the question is, what $1.3 million buys near Lake Washington, Sandpoint answers with shoreline, open space, and a quieter northeastern Seattle feel. But Sandpoint needs a little extra explanation because the blended number does not tell the whole story. The walk score is just 14, so most errands generally mean driving rather than stepping out to a dense commercial core. The buy-type split is also wide. Detached houses are around $1.72 million, while condos are around $410,000. That makes the $1.31 million median useful as a market marker, but not a clean description of every housing path in the neighborhood. That split is exactly why Sandpoint lands in the middle rather than higher. The setting is strong, especially with Magnuson Park, Lake Washington, and the northeastern Seattle location. The year-over-year reading was down 4.5%, the largest dip among these five, which adds an interesting price signal. Still, because the day-to-day walkability is limited and the housing mix is so uneven, Sandpoint feels more specialized than the top two picks. Number 2 is Woodinville, Washington. Woodinville's median sits around $1,310,000, almost right on top of Sandpoint's, but the value story looks different. At about $557 per square foot, Woodinville has the lowest price per square foot figure among the five. Instead of Lake Washington City neighborhoods, the setting shifts northeast toward the Sammamish River, winery country, the Herbfarm, and Molbach's Garden and Home. What $1.3 million buys here is a suburban Eastside area setting with more room in the price math than the Seattle waterfront adjacent picks. The walk score is 75, which is notably stronger than many people expect for a place known for wineries, trails, and river access. Woodinville was down 3.6% year over year, giving it another reason to stand out in this specific price band. It does not have the same dense urban feel as Madrona, but it gives the budget a different kind of reach. Woodinville ranks this high because the numbers in the setting line up cleanly. The median is close to $1.3 million. The price per square foot is the lowest here, and the neighborhood identity is distinct from the Seattle picks before it. The Sammamish River gives the area a natural corridor, while the local dining and tasting room scene gives it a recognizable center of gravity. If this countdown is about how far one budget can stretch across Greater Seattle, Woodinville shows the strongest space and setting argument. And now, number 1 is Redmond, Washington. Redmond caps the tier at about $1,348,000, so it is roughly $48,000 over a flat $1.3 million target. That makes it the most expensive pick here, but it also brings a very strong overall package. A walk score of 86, Redmond Town Center, the Sammamish River, and an Eastside tech hub location. It is the highest priced neighborhood in the countdown, but it also gives the cleanest blend of access, activity, and market signal. The price movement matters here too. Redmond was down 3.8% year over year, the second largest dip among these five, while still holding the highest median. Its price per square foot reaches about $631, also the highest in this group, which tells you the market is still paying a premium for this location. In other words, Redmond does not win because it is the cheapest. It wins because the whole package is unusually complete at this tier. Downtown Redmond gives the neighborhood more structure than many suburban markets around Seattle. Redmond Town Center anchors shopping and dining. The Sammamish River adds a natural edge, and the Eastside job base keeps the location highly relevant to the $1.3 million conversation. The walk score of 86 reinforces that this is not just a car-oriented suburb with a high price tag. Among these five, Redmond feels like the clearest example of what the upper end of this budget can buy in the broader Seattle market. The bigger takeaway is that $1.3 million is not one experience here. In Madrona, it leans toward walkable Seattle streets and Lake Washington access. In Magnolia, it leans toward parks, bluffs, and Puget Sound views. In Sandpoint, it leans toward waterfront park space with a major housing type split. Woodinville turns the same budget toward lower price per square foot and river-adjacent suburban character, while Redmond uses it for an Eastside downtown environment with strong walkability. That's the countdown. Madrona, Magnolia, Sandpoint, Woodinville, and Redmond. One budget here stretches across lakefront streets, Puget Sound viewpoints, wine country edges, and an Eastside downtown. Every number in this video is sourced with Zillow, Redfin, and walk score links in the description. Which neighborhood would have made your top 5? If this helped, tap like, subscribe, and tell me what price point or Seattle area topic to cover next.